With the clutch and front brakes upgraded, the new bigger carbs have been rebuilt and installed, which can mean only one thing. But before you see if all of this work was worth it, let me get you caught up to speed with everything else that's taken us to this point. Welcome back to Project Goldmember. So the carbs are installed, looking great. Next thing to do is set up all the synchronization. Quick kind of step-by-step on how I do it is, first thing I do, once all the cables are installed and the heights are adjusted to where I'm comfortable, I then set all the slide heights. I use a drill bit to slightly raise each slide, and then I will screw in the idle adjuster screw until it makes contact, and that way we know every single carb was adjusted with the exact same drill bit, exact same height. The next thing to do is to do the slide engagement, and that is adjusted up here. I like this method. This is what I call the Darth method. Triple Darth kind of came up with this. You make these nice little dowels. To be honest, I suggest making them out of wood because you'll be less likely to scratch or mar anything. But basically, you just slide the dowel underneath the slide like so. The red tips just help with visualizing when they engage. And now when I turn the throttle, you can see all three carbs are adjusting at the same time. If a carb was out of adjustment, I'll just show you here. It is now a little bit lazy there. Now if you want to know how I got these carbs looking so clean, make sure to click the link above here for my video on soda blasting. So the next thing to kind of set and adjust will be the idle, and then each individual idle screw for its corresponding cylinder. Now I know we already preset all the slide heights to the exact same height, so theoretically this motor should already be synchronized. But if you kind of think of each cylinder as its own individual motor, they all wear down uniquely. Because of that, they each draw uniquely on their own individual carburetors. So that's why we'll be using a handy dandy unisync tool to check the vacuum on each cylinder and then adjust the idle screws accordingly to then synchronize the cylinders. I keep saying in sync enough. I feel like I'm a fan of 90s pop music. Now with the initial carb setup finished, we are going to install the brand new battery, make sure we still got spark on all three cylinders, then take this thing outside and fire it up. Spark on all three! Let's do it! Let's fire this thing up! Currently 0 degrees Celsius outside right now. There's actually snowflakes coming down, so if you haven't hit like and subscribe, please do so because it's freaking cold out. Let's fire this thing up. Now I know I said I was going to be using the unisync to sync up all these carbs here, but I tried it out and I wasn't very happy with the results. Mostly because I think these smaller displacement motors just don't have enough vacuum to really get a good accurate reading on those things. I had to dial the valve closed all the way, which then choked out the carb, and I had to bring the RPMs up to 4,000. It was just a bit of a mess. I've now opted to use the SYNCROMETER. I tried it out yesterday and it actually worked so good. It's incredibly quick and accurate, and it doesn't restrict the airflow either, so you don't have to worry about choking out your carburetors. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use it in the center carburetor so we can get a good view at the gauge through the top of the frame here. So I'm just going to fire up the bike and play with the idle screw a little bit just so you can see exactly how sensitive and accurate this thing is. I already synced up the carbs yesterday when I had a bit of free time. So again, this is just demonstration purposes, but this thing really does work the trick awesome. Let's give it a go. So I've got the motor warmed up and idling now. As you can see, that gauge is basically down at 0. I'm just gonna try to get it stuck inside the bell of the carb there. So it's in there at 6. I'm gonna turn up the idle. And right away, it automatically just responds. Very, 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 very responsive. It's in now around 8. I'm gonna dial it back. You can see with every dial I do, the needle right away jumps. So again, it's back at 6. I'm gonna bring it back up to 7. Right away, very, very responsive. This thing is awesome. And again, you bring up the RPMs, it goes right back, no bouncing around. This thing really works awesome. Again, I can't believe I've never used one of these things before. Super cool. Now, obviously, after upgrading larger carbs, I'm not going to be using the stock airbox, which is why I've decided to use these nice uni foam filters. Now, they do come like this with this red outer sleeve that is removable. It simply just pulls off. It's not glued on or anything like that, which makes it really, really nice. We decided to remove it on this bike simply just for aesthetic purposes to kind of match the black accents. Now, I really like these filters for a couple reasons. First of all, they're incredibly versatile. They come in a variety of dimensions that fit whatever application you're using them on. On this particular bike, I'm using the 1 3/4" inside diameter with the 4" length. And second of all, they just perform really, really well. I've had nothing but good luck with these. I know traditionally guys like to run this style filter. They've been around forever. They're cheap, they're readily available. They might look the part, but from my experience and of that of other guys in the triple world, they just don't perform. And for whatever reason, the Kawasaki triples really don't like this style filter. And it just kind of upsets them. It makes tuning difficult. There's really no performance benefits from my experience anyways. And from looking from one filter to the other, it's obvious to see why this style far outperforms these guys here. First of all, these only suck in air around the outside, so that's a bit of an issue, especially for the center cylinder, which could potentially get starved of air. These guys here, way more surface area. They suck in air from all sides, even the ends here. You look on the inside, there's absolutely nothing obstructing the airflow. Obviously, aesthetically, they're not period correct. But if you're not running the stock airbox and you're more concerned about rideability and tunability over looks, I highly recommend these guys. And again, these red sleeves, they just pull right off, leaving you with these nice black pods, which actually are fairly discreet, especially if you're riding by. So to me, another no-brainer. The pros far outweigh the cons. Again, just kind of sharing my personal experience and what limited knowledge I have to try to help the rest of the community. Now, back to the build. So one last minute final upgrade we decided to do to this bike was replace the original point system with a more modern electronic ignition. This is the Accent ignition. I got it from Z Power out of the UK. I'm gonna go ahead and install this. I won't go too far into detail in this video, but I will have another video all about installing this Accent ignition on the early S series triples. So I was having some issues with an air leak coming through the intake manifold, so I took the carbs off and had to do a little bit of repairs on them. Basically, I wasn't getting enough clamp on the intake manifold here, so I had to recut this slit, added an extra washer in there to reinforce that soft metal, added a bit of RTV in those grooves to stop any potential air going in that way. Then I also took the original air intake manifolds, cut a groove in them, and installed a nice O-ring. The O-rings I used were Vitron, so they're ethanol resistant and have a higher heat rating of, I believe, around 600 degrees Fahrenheit, which should be more than enough to handle the heat from the back of the cylinders there. So hopefully all these things combined will fix my air leak issue. Two other things I did to these intake manifolds was resurface this face here, so it's got a proper seal up against the cylinder. And then I also went ahead and just cleaned up the inside of the bore there. As you can see here on the original one, there are some rough casting marks. It's a bit of a sharp edge. So again, just an experiment. I thought I would clean that up with a sander and hopefully just get a nice smoother airflow. These really are an experiment, so hopefully they work. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them below. So let's get this back together and fire up the bike.
Oh yeah, that's a heck of a lot better. Nice crispy two-stroke. Remember, I was having some issues with the left cylinder there, kind of firing up and running at the same temperature. I went through the carbs 100 times, I swapped the coils, couldn't figure it out. Well, I believe it all came down to faulty check valve. We knew that these had a slow leak, which is why we put the valve in there to shut the oil flow off when the bike is hit to prevent hydrolock. But I just swapped out this line and the thing is actually running way better now. It was just super rich out of that cylinder. So I mean, the bike's already warmed up, but I'll show you real quick here. Like, it's never sounded like this. Super snappy, super good, holds an idle great. It's not puffing out smoke out the back like it was before. Oh yeah, Project Goldmember, I'm happy to say, is finished.